Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on why they like being in Flagler and why they like having their business in Flagler. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Miss Danielle, with us today. Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on and sharing a few minutes.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to learn more about what you do.
Hey, I feel like we're kind of almost in like a similar-ish field. So I'm really excited to hear about like a different aspect of kind of almost like, like spotlighting local people and spotlighting the community. For people who don't know, Danielle is running about 3 years now of running the Flagler News Weekly. Is that, I forgot the term,
Yep,
but
that's
she
exactly right.
runs perfect, a daily uh, digital newspaper for Flagler and then the local community. So, Danielle, again, I'm super excited to kind of just dive into it and learn a lot more about this new aspect of how we market and how we get our name out there.
Yeah, for people who don't know, I started doing news reporting with the WNZF News Radio. It's our local radio station, and I worked with them for 2 years doing news reporting before transitioning over to the Daytona Beach News Journal's News Tribune. I did that
Oh,
for a little over 8 years. And during COVID, a lot of us changed jobs and changed industries, but my passion has always been news and getting the stories here in our community. So I opened Sunrise Media Group and started Flagler News Weekly.
that's so cool. I love that. So you've known for a really good while that you're really into journalism.
I love it. I've always been in hospitality and I've always loved talking to people and taking care of people and finding out more about them. And so when I fell into journalism, it just was this natural fit. And it's kind of crazy, but you end up like loving the people that you cover and you care about their stories and you really want to see them be successful. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. I feel the same exact way. Like I'd worked in a restaurant my entire teenage years, and I had started this podcast like as a thing to get out of COVID and really spark conversations again and talk to people again. And I guess I didn't realize how much I really enjoy having this type of space to talk to people in this way, and then, document it with the world, which I think is really cool. So that's awesome that you were able to find that as well. Before we started recording, you were mentioning that you originally were from Tampa. I'd love to know, I don't think I know personally the story of how did you find Flagler? How did you discover this?
So my dad was in the Air Force. He was career military, and so we were fortunate enough to travel, all over the East Coast. We never left the United States, but when he retired in Virginia, I always said, I'm moving back to Florida, even though I hadn't been here in so long.
Mhm.
My grandparents every summer had a place in St. Augustine, and so we would come visit them. And so my dream was always to come back to Florida. And so when I got married, my husband wanted us to move to Tucson. So we moved to Arizona. And I said, if anything happens, we're moving to Florida. And so something happened the very first night. And I said, okay, we're going to Florida. So we moved to St. Augustine, which is where my grandparents had their place. And while we were there, we met some people from Flagler Beach, and they said it was Jay and Stacy Archibald, and they were like, "You guys are Flagler Beach people," and we are like, "Where's Flagler Beach?" So we came down and we built our house in 1999. And
Wow.
so we've been here. I've been able to raise my children here, and it's been a really great experience letting them be in the same place growing up. It's really been
Yeah.
wonderful.
And especially something that's completely transformed, I imagine, since then.
It has. We were like the third house on the block, and now
Wow.
it's like there are just people everywhere. But it's
Yeah.
cool because it's a melting pot.
Yeah. And I mean it must be a very interesting feeling sometime. Like where I was from in Michigan, my mom when she was a kid, it was nothing like the bustling city it kind of has become now. And she's like, yeah, that grocery store used to be just nothing, like farmland. Like that's like such an interesting concept to look and be like, oh yeah, I remember when that was nothing. So I'm sure that's how you guys feel. It's like, oh my God, that didn't used to always be a Target. That where did Starbucks come from? Stuff like that.
The funny thing is I meet these people who's are 3, 4 generations into Flagler, and they're like, I remember when there was one stoplight here, and we had to go to Ormond to go grocery shopping, and I was like, Wow.
And you know they're not kidding about the one stoplight too. It's not
No.
like a hyperbole. It's not they like made it up like, oh, we only had like one. It genuinely was. That's so cool. Well, I would love for you. I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit on opening Sunrise Media, but how has that been of opening kind of your own business? Because I imagine you mostly worked for other people and you did some other stuff, but now you're kind of branched on your own. How has that been? And is there anything that you've learned that you're like, oh my gosh, I did not know this was something I had to deal with?
So I actually had a PR firm for about 10 years before that.
Okay.
So but opening your own newspaper is really scary.
Mm,
And the cool thing about what I've been able to do is mostly what I covered before was charitable work. I didn't cover like the government, thing like that. And so now I have the ability to cover everything. The
mm,
choices are mine as the editor.
right.
And it's really expanded what I've been able to cover and the news I've been able to deliver to the community. But business wise, that first year I was terrified, absolutely so scared, because that's like your thing. And it's really been a blessing.
That's so cool. I love that. I was actually recently talking to Brian McMillan of the Palm Coast Observer, and he was kind of sharing like the same thing because he's new into being an editor. He's like, he had been an editor for them for ages before, but now he's the owner and editor. He's like, oh my gosh, this is insane. There's so much that, he has to learn now with doing this whole different side of it. He's not just a writer, like he's overlooking everything. He's like, oh my God, it's so much new responsibility.
It's
Yeah,
scary, especially when you have so many employees and you've got that massive overhead. It really keeps you awake at night sometimes because people are depending on you.
right. Yeah. What have you liked about like what I guess maybe what should people go for like if they wanted to learn a little bit more about what you do, what do you think people would be interested to find? What can they find in it?
Well, I mean, Flagler News Weekly, we've really made a focus of making it all positive news.
That's
uh,
good.
I feel like there's plenty of space for everyone to tell different stories,
Sure.
and so it's really important for the things I've always covered over the past 10 years have been positive.
Hmm.
So it's just very natural to do that, and I would encourage people to go check it out because you know somebody told me when I first started, "Oh, how's it going? You're talking about all good news," and I said, "Well, last year we had 25 million hits to our website."
Wow.
So I know that there is a readership for people interested in good news, and people don't always want to feel bad. So, if you're
Right.
looking for that positive boost, this is definitely the place to get that.
Yeah, and I think maybe people might have like a misunderstanding that there aren't enough good things happening that like how can you possibly keep it going? But there's so much if you want to look for it that of course you have unlimited material. There's always something great happening each day. You just have to go out and find it.
And it could be the smallest thing. It doesn't have to be somebody, saving the world. It's somebody,
Right.
who helped the little old lady with her groceries or delivering Christmas cards to the nursing home or just, rescuing a kitty. All those things are like, those are things that make you feel good when you read them and you're like, man, dude. And then you want to go and do good things. And
Totally
it just
agree.
kind of like ripples out into the world.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll make sure I have the link for that in the description so people can check that
Sweet.
out. I think that's a great idea. And just switching gears just a little bit, before we got on the call, you were kind of telling me a little bit about your kind of passion project of traveling and documenting it. I would love for you to share just a little bit about that, whatever you would like.
Yeah, it's super quick. So it is my passion project. I opened Top Shelf Florida Quarterly. Sometimes it's every quarter, sometimes it's a little further in between. But I've been able to kind of talk more about as somebody who is in the travel and tourism industry as well. Visitor resources. People are always looking for, making their trip better. How can they do those things? And so I've been able to kind of use Top Shelf to talk about that and also focus on the Scenic Highway program. Who, if anybody knows me, I'm super massive big into the scenic highways. I'm on the National Scenic Byway Foundation board, so you know, scenic highways are my thing, and so I try to incorporate that into Top Shelf as well. So it's actually on Flagler News Weekly. You can go there and check out the digital issues for that, and it's all free. We just want to make sure that you can read the news anytime you want.
I love that. Definitely. I'll make sure that people should definitely go check that out. I mean, I just got back from Tampa and I kind of accidentally, I've done it before, so it didn't bother me, but I took kind of like the scenic route of it. And it's been, like I said, I've done it, like I think I've done it three times before. So it's nothing new to me, but it's great to just look at the little communities that you drive through and the woodland. Is it woodlands? Is that what it's called? I always mix it up with Texas for some reason. Um, and then like Ocala and stuff, and there's just so much farmland out there, like you kind of forget. But it's like it's so great to look at all the horses and the cows. I really enjoy that part of my drive.
And also think about, the little businesses out there. Those are mom and pop businesses
Mhm.
that sometimes are generational. Sometimes it's somebody's dream to start that little small business. And so when you take that scenic route, you're giving them an economic boost as well and giving them
Right.
visibility when you share it on social media.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so cool. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. Kind of as a wrap-up question, I know you mentioned a little bit about the scenic highways. I know you're
Sure.
really involved with A1A. What are some great ways that people can get out there, really get their hands in with the community and kind of get them dirty in the best way possible?
We have all those. So you can sign up to be a volunteer. We have great events coming up like Spoonbills and Sprockets cycling tour. We have our super scenic garage sale. We do roadside cleanups and beach cleanups. And we also do Kids Ocean Day. So there are plenty of ways to volunteer and get involved. People think a scenic highway is just about cleaning up a road, and really and truly, it's education, it's safety, it's being part of the community. So check us out at scenic1a.org and come volunteer anytime. We love volunteers.
Perfect. So again, I'll make sure I have that link in the description so people can check that out just a little bit quicker. But thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on and sharing a few minutes. I really enjoyed listening to your story, and I can definitely tell you have a passion for all of these things. They just completely poured out of you in the best way possible. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the listeners. I appreciate your time today, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.